At 2:52 p.m. there was nowhere left to hide. No darkness, no weather, no confusion. Just open water, clear skies, and the most dangerous maritime corridor on Earth fully exposed to daylight. The Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. guided missile destroyer moved steadily through the narrow passage, escorting a civilian oil tanker whose cargo powered cities across the globe. From a distance, it looked routine. Calm seas, predictable speed, another freedom of navigation transit. But from the Iranian coastline, this was not routine. This was opportunity. Radars switched from passive to active. Fire control systems came online. Missile crews took their positions. In that moment, the strait stopped being a shipping lane and became a firing solution. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, yet nearly 20% of the world's oil passes through it every single day. More than 30 million barrels move through this corridor, making it the most economically critical stretch of water on the planet. For decades, Iran claimed leverage here. They threatened to close it, to choke global energy markets, to force political concessions. For years, those threats were dismissed as theatre, until 3 weeks earlier. That was when intelligence satellites began detecting something different. Mobile anti-ship missile batteries appeared along Iran's northern coast. Not outdated systems, but modern, long-range weapons designed to skim the sea surface and strike with minimal warning. Naval patrols intensified. Fast attack units trained in coordinated swarm tactics. Missile-armed corvettes repositioned closer to shipping lanes. This wasn't rhetoric anymore. It was preparation. The US response was simple. Sail anyway. Freedom of navigation isn't symbolic. It's a declaration that international waters remain open, regardless of who claims them. American tankers would continue to pass. American escorts would continue to protect them. Threats would not dictate global trade. That decision placed one destroyer and one oil tanker at the center of the world's most volatile choke point, under perfect daylight conditions. At 10 a.m., orders were issued. Escort the tanker, ensure safe passage, respond to aggression if necessary. The destroyer's commanding officer understood exactly what this meant. Daylight transit removed every advantage of concealment. Every maneuver would be seen, every radar emission tracked, every weapon movement analyzed from shore. Nothing would be hidden. At 11:30 a.m., the destroyer entered the strait. The oil tanker followed 1 kilometer behind, massive and unmistakable against the horizon. From the coastline, both ships were clearly visible in the bright midday sun. At 12:15 p.m., Iranian coastal radar began active scanning. This was not casual monitoring. Targeting radars locked on. Range and speed were calculated. Fire control systems refined engagement angles. Operators on shore watched the destroyer's movement in real time. This was the first warning. At 1:47 p.m., 12 fast attack boats departed Bandar Abbas at high speed. Their launch was visible not only to the destroyer's sensors, but also to satellites passing overhead. Minutes later, 3 missile-armed corvettes left port, adjusting course toward interception positions. From the sea, from the air, and from the shore, everything was converging. What the crew did not hear over the loudspeaker was what intelligence analysts already suspected. Iran wasn't posturing. Intercepted communications suggested coordination, timing, rehearsal. The exact details were unclear, but one conclusion was unavoidable. Iran was preparing to test something. At 2:35 p.m., confirmation arrived. Missile batteries activated. Fast attack boats inbound. Corvettes maneuvering to intercept. Defensive engagement authorized. Hold position. Defend the tanker. The destroyer went to full battle readiness. From Iran's perspective, the setup looked perfect. 1 American destroyer, 1 civilian tanker, the narrowest choke point on Earth, missile batteries along the coast, swarm boats closing fast, heavier warships adding pressure, no room to maneuver, no obvious escape route. The plan was simple: overwhelm the destroyer with simultaneous attacks, sink it in Iranian-controlled waters, capture survivors, seize the tanker, force the world to watch. Iran believed they were about to humiliate American naval power in broad daylight. What they did not realize was how incomplete their picture truly was. They saw one ship. They did not see what surrounded it. Their first mistake was beneath the water. 3 American submarines were already in position, silent and invisible, tracking Iranian naval movements with absolute precision. Their second mistake was beyond the horizon. A carrier strike group waited within striking distance, aircraft fueled, armed, and ready to launch on minutes' notice. Their third mistake was above the clouds. Long-range bombers orbited at altitude, every missile battery already mapped, targeted, and assigned coordinates. Their fourth mistake was inside the tanker itself, because the vessel Iran intended to seize was not defenseless. Hidden below deck were 12 marine reconnaissance operators embedded for exactly this scenario. When Iran prepared to launch its attack, they believed they were sinking one destroyer. In reality, they were triggering the largest American naval response in the Persian Gulf in decades. At exactly 2:52 p.m., the coastline erupted. Missile launch signatures flared across sensors. Vapor trails cut through the sky, flattening low as they raced just meters above the sea toward their target, from the shore, from the boats, from multiple directions at once. Dozens of missiles converged on a single point in open water. In that instant, the Strait of Hormuz stopped being a shipping lane and became a battlefield. And because it was daylight, every second of what followed would be seen, recorded, and remembered. The first missiles broke the horizon line almost simultaneously. Low, fast, barely above the water. Sea-skimming profiles designed to appear only in the final moments, riding the curvature of the Earth, leaving almost no reaction time. On the destroyer's combat screens, hostile tracks multiplied rapidly, collapsing inward from every direction. This was not a warning shot. This was saturation. Inside the Combat Information Center, alarms overlapped as the Aegis combat system fused radar, infrared, and electronic signals into a single firing picture. Every inbound missile was classified, ranked, and assigned an intercept solution in milliseconds. Multiple inbound. Confirm hostile. There was no hesitation. Engage. Vertical launch cells opened in rapid sequence. Interceptor missiles erupted upward, white contrails cutting sharp lines into the blue sky before arcing downward toward their targets. Explosions bloomed in mid-air, violent flashes clearly visible even from the shoreline. One missile destroyed, then another, then 3 more. But the radar screen was still full. Too many, too fast. As the outer defensive layer thinned, the inner systems came alive. Close-in weapon mounts rotated automatically, tracking targets that slipped through the first intercepts. Gatling guns spun up, unleashing dense walls of fire into the incoming wave. Missiles detonated at close range. Shockwaves slammed against the hull. Fragments rained down across the deck. For a brief moment, it looked like the defenses might hold. Then one broke through. The impact slammed into the forward section above the waterline. A violent explosion tore through the hull, followed instantly by fire and thick black smoke pouring upward into the clear afternoon sky. Damage control teams were already moving as alarms echoed through the ship. Seconds later, a second missile struck aft. The deck shuddered, systems flickered, another explosion. More fire, more smoke. The destroyer was hit. From the Iranian coast, the damage was impossible to miss. Flames, smoke, a wounded American warship fighting to stay in the fight. Iran believed this was the moment everything turned in their favor. They were wrong. Damage report. Forward section hit, aft section hit, fires contained, combat systems still online. The ship was burning, but it was alive. And now the rules changed. Return fire authorized. That order marked the moment the engagement stopped being defensive. Vertical launch cells opened again, this time releasing cruise missiles. Bright launch flames flared even in daylight as the weapons climbed, leveled off, and turned toward the Iranian coastline. Each missile already had a target, each coordinate already confirmed. The missile batteries that had fired moments earlier were now on borrowed time. At the same moment, the Iranian fast attack boats closed to within 5 kilometers. Machine guns opened up. Additional missiles lifted from their decks. All of it happened in full daylight, every movement clearly visible to sensors, aircraft, and satellites. The destroyer's main gun rotated. The first round fired. The lead attack boat vanished in a violent explosion, debris scattering across the water. A second boat erupted seconds later. A third burned, drifting out of formation. But there were still more, and the corvettes were closing. Central Command, this is Mason. We are hit. 2 missile impacts. Fires ongoing. Engaged with multiple surface and land-based threats. We need immediate air support. The response came without delay. Air support inbound. 60 seconds. Hold on. Above the strait, engines roared. 8 fighter aircraft dropped altitude at extreme speed, tearing across the sky at nearly 600 knots. In the clear afternoon light, they were impossible to miss. The pilots saw the battle instantly. A destroyer burning but maneuvering, missiles streaking through open air, attack boats swarming below. All flights, weapons free. Priority targets, corvettes and swarm craft. Keep them off the destroyer. Anti-ship missiles separated from the fighters and accelerated toward their targets. Active radar seekers locked on instantly. The Iranian corvettes detected the launches and attempted evasive maneuvers. Too late. 3 impacts struck almost simultaneously. Massive fireballs erupted as hulls split apart. Ships broke, rolled, and sank within minutes. The explosions were visible for miles even in full daylight. The fighters immediately turned their attention to the remaining fast-attack boats. Cannon fire stitched the water. Precision strafing runs tore through the swarm. Boats exploded, burned, and disappeared beneath the surface. 9 became 6, 6 became 3, 3 became none. Within minutes, the sea around the destroyer was littered with burning wreckage. As the last boats vanished, the cruise missiles reached land. One by one, coastal missile batteries ceased to exist. Precision warheads slammed into launch sites, command vehicles, and radar installations. Secondary explosions rolled along the shoreline as ammunition cooked off. From space, the strikes were unmistakable. The entire coastal missile network was erased in minutes. But the operation was still expanding. High above, long-range bombers that had been orbiting silently since before the first missile launch received their clearance. Targets confirmed, coordinates locked, weapons free. Bomb bays opened. From 40,000 feet above the battlefield, the bombers finally moved. They had been circling quietly since before the first missile left its launcher, their presence unknown to anyone below. Now, with targeting data streaming in real time, the order came through without emotion. You are cleared hot. Bomb bay doors opened. Guided munitions dropped cleanly into the clear afternoon sky, falling silently at first, then accelerating as their guidance systems activated. Each weapon carried precise coordinates: command centers, ammunition depots, radar installations, communications hubs. Every major node that allowed Iranian naval forces to function in the strait had already been selected. Minutes later, the coastline detonated. One after another, military facilities erupted in synchronized explosions. Fireballs rolled outward. Secondary blasts followed as stored munitions ignited. Radar towers collapsed. Barracks disappeared beneath clouds of dust and flame. In less than 4 minutes, the operational backbone of Iran's naval presence along the strait was gone. From the shore, it was impossible to deny. From space, it was undeniable. But the most psychologically devastating phase had not yet begun. Beneath the surface, 3 shadows moved. For weeks, American submarines had tracked Iranian naval activity in complete silence, mapping movements, logging communications, and waiting. They had not fired a single weapon. They had not revealed themselves. Until now. At 3:08 p.m., the sea broke. 3 American attack submarines surfaced almost simultaneously, their hulls cutting through the water in full daylight. It was a deliberate reveal, a message. Vertical launch systems opened. 12 cruise missiles erupted from beneath the surface, their exhaust plumes bright against the blue water. The missiles climbed, leveled, and turned inland toward a single objective. Iranian Naval Headquarters. The building coordinating the entire ambush. At 3:12 p.m., that headquarters ceased to exist. Multiple warheads struck in rapid succession. The structure collapsed inward, consumed by fire and debris. A massive smoke cloud rose into the sky, visible from tens of kilometers away. The command staff inside never had time to react. In one strike, Iran lost the nerve center that had planned the attack, issued the orders, and believed it could control the outcome. The chain of command was severed. And still, the pressure did not stop. At 3:15 p.m., additional aircraft arrived over the strait. More fighters, electronic warfare platforms. Their role was immediate and absolute. Electronic jammers flooded the spectrum, blinding every remaining Iranian radar within hundreds of kilometers. Air defenses went dark, communications failed, command links collapsed. What little remained of Iran's naval capability was now isolated, exposed, and defenseless. Systematic destruction followed. Patrol boats still tied to piers were destroyed in port. Maintenance yards burned. Fuel depots erupted into towering fireballs, their smoke columns visible for miles in the clear daylight. Satellite imagery captured everything. By 3:25 p.m., the Iranian naval presence in the Strait of Hormuz region no longer functioned as a fighting force. 12 fast attack boats sunk, 3 missile corvettes destroyed, 6 coastal missile batteries eliminated. Naval headquarters obliterated, dozens of supporting facilities burned. But the operation was still not complete, because the original objective remained unchanged: protect the tanker, ensure passage, and neutralize any remaining threats. At 3:28 p.m., the oil tanker that had stayed clear of the fighting finally moved. Panels opened along its deck. In broad daylight, 12 U.S. Marines emerged from concealed compartments, fully equipped and immediately visible to anyone watching the shoreline. They were not security guards. They were force reconnaissance operators, embedded for one purpose: just in case. Rigid-hull boats hit the water and accelerated toward the coast, their movement unmistakable against the sunlit sea. Their target was a coastal observation post, one of the facilities that had coordinated targeting data during the missile attack. At 3:35 p.m., the Marines hit the beach. Breaching charges detonated, flashbangs followed. Rooms were cleared with precision and speed. Within minutes, the facility was under American control. 8 Iranian personnel were captured, hard drives seized, documents collected, systems destroyed. By 3:39 p.m., the Marines were already extracting, racing back toward the tanker with captured intelligence in hand. All of it happened in full daylight. All of it was visible. At 3:39 p.m., the final strike began. The destroyer, damaged, scarred, but still operational, launched its remaining cruise missiles. Flames flared from its launch cells, clear against the afternoon sky. Targets were already designated. Iranian military command complexes deeper inland. At 3:42 p.m., those complexes disappeared. Massive explosions rocked the area, sending shockwaves through surrounding infrastructure. By 3:45 p.m., organized resistance in the region had ended. The battle was over. The destroyer remained afloat. The tanker remained untouched. The Marines were safely extracted, and the Strait of Hormuz remained open. Within hours, Iranian state media attempted to regain control of the narrative. Official statements claimed victory. They claimed the American ship had been damaged and forced to retreat. They claimed successful defense of territorial waters. But images told a different story. High-resolution satellite photographs showed sunken vessels on the seabed, smoking craters where missile batteries once stood, collapsed buildings where headquarters had operated. Nothing was classified. Nothing was hidden. It was all captured in perfect daylight. The global response was immediate. Markets barely moved. Allies took note. Regional partners expanded cooperation, because the message was unmistakable. Iran had attacked one American destroyer with everything it had in the region, and in 47 minutes it lost nearly everything it committed. The lesson was simple. Attacking an American warship does not close the Strait of Hormuz. It opens the door to overwhelming response, and when that response comes, the world watches it happen, clearly, completely, and in daylight.